continue. All right. So welcome everyone to our monthly mastermind, where we love to have a topic that really is pertinent to small business, medium business, even large business. This is like information that everyone should have at hand. And this month's topic is taking our business systems to the next level. And we're super excited to have Roseline Joseph that is going to be speaking with us. We are the Holistic Business Network. And what this group and network is a network of holistic practitioners, services, and products in the health and wellness space that are doing amazing things. Every member that's a part of the network is vetted to make sure that they just are in alignment with what our mission is. And that is just to help a lot of people realize there's so many different modalities to health, and there's so many solutions out there. And we have an amazing group of people that can offer amazing services to help you live your best life. And our goal is to help you get more exposure and visibility in what you're doing in the holistic realm so that you can grow your business. And so that is a huge part. We want to see your business grow and flourish, whether it's through the connections you make, the referrals you get, the partnerships you do, or the collaborations. There's a number of ways that you can do that, and we help you to do that. My name is Michelle Fletcher, which I should have started off with. And we're just happy to have you here. This has been a hot topic. So many emails and messages about this, and for some of our members that aren't on, asking for the recording. So it is being recorded right now. I co-host this event alongside Cordera Tiart, who is the is the creator of Feel Well magazine, which is a high-end wellness magazine that is being distributed in Florida, but is also being distributed around the country, and will be in all over very soon in publication. And so they get to feature several of our members in the magazine. I've been featured on the cover of the magazine. And it's just a really amazing partnership because it's another way to help you get exposure and visibility and also credibility in what you're doing in your health and wellness business. And so, Cordera, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to turn it over to you real quick to introduce yourself, share any words, then you could turn it back to me because I know I forgot to mention something, but feel free.
I'm going to be really quick because I really do want to hear from Roz. I have my notebook out and ready. So I'm Cordera Tiart. As Michelle said, I'm the creator and founder of Feel Well magazine. We're a health, wellness, and lifestyle magazine focused on the mind, body, and business for all entrepreneurs and people in business. And it is a leg of our parent company, Manifest Her Media, which that company in a whole focuses on female entrepreneurs. So I'm excited to be the chief business strategist at the Holistic Business Network. And I'm just even more excited when I put in the request to our member, Roz, from the Answer Management Services tonight. And she accepted and said yes. So thank you, Michelle, for giving me a few seconds to speak.
Yeah, thank you for organizing that because, sometimes we can forget how valuable and how much wisdom we all have. And so I was so glad that you did connect with her because this is definitely a hot topic. But I also wanted to share before we get started more about the Holistic Business Network real quick. If you're curious about what it is, I mentioned what our goal is to help you within your health and wellness business. There is a membership involved. If you sign up, be a part of the membership this month, you will be locked in at our rate that we have now, but prices will be increasing. But there's several benefits, which I mentioned, our partnership with the magazine, the fact that we do as many things possible to help you get more visibility in what you're doing. Workshops like this, trainings, collaborations that we really encourage within the network. So a number of even more things that are available to you, but just wanted to mention that in case you do not make it to the end, but I don't think you're going to want to miss any of this because it's going to be so good. So get your notepads out Welcome to the people that just joined. Get your notepads out. Check the chat because I see Roseline is leaving a few tips for you guys and pointers. But I'm going to turn it now over to Roseline Joseph. He's a Six Sigma Black Belt in project management. He has been in the field for so many, over 10 years, right, Roz?
Yep.
Over 10 years. And she's a little hard to get on a platform like this because she's doing the do. So we're just happy that she took the time to spend with us tonight. So I'm going to turn that over to you, Roz, to work your magic. Thank you so much for being our guest speaker tonight.
Thank you for having me to the Holistic Business Network. I'm really excited to be here. I'm just going to pull this up while I present. So my name is Roseline Joseph. I help organizations and businesses kind of keep it together and get it together and keep it together behind the scenes. I'm also the co-founder of Holistic Executive Suites. We're a wellness co-working space in Boynton Beach, Florida, where we provide a home for your business no matter what stage you're at, whether you're starting off, looking to grow, or just need somewhere to land periodically. And so I invite you all, I put my LinkedIn information in the chat, as well as links to both businesses. But tonight we're focusing on operation systems, getting and keeping your business ideas off the ground. So a lot of the times we focus so much on getting launched that we have to figure out and remember how to keep ourselves maintained and really sustained as we move along in business. So I can't see any there. Talk about that. So my company is the Answer Management Services. We are a project management firm here based in Boynton Beach, Florida, based out of Holistic Executive Suites now. And the way that I came up with my name kind of explains the premise of what I do. So back in college, I joined a sorority, and my line name was The Answer. And the reason for that was because I always had the answers, whether that was amongst friends or family or other folks. And then as I continued in my career, people always kind of came to me as the person that was a go-to resource. And so when I started freelancing, I really had to make up my mind, is this something I wanted to do? And one of the things, one of the strategists I worked with initially really wanted me to carve out was a name that really represented what I did and that I could resonate with, and that I actually had a why, not just because I thought it would just sell, but there was a reason behind it. And so I'm really the answer to management services and how you keep those operations pieces together. And that's what I focus on with the clients and organizations that I work with. All right. So one of the things I want to explain to you is how you kind of look at your services. And so I always look at things in buckets. And so the three main buckets that I provide in terms of services are my project management consulting, strategic development, and project management training. And that also helps me as I go along, and you'll hear me as I go along and talk through this, why I look at things in buckets, because everything kind of has a home in terms of where it belongs. But that also tells me that there's a process each of those different service buckets follow that I have to maintain or at least develop for them and identify the route. And so one of the things is you're not just bringing the idea to market, you also have to make sure that on the other end, all the way at the end of it, you're collecting on that idea. So it's not just important to understand, hey, I'm a strategist, but what kind of strategist? What are the services that you offer? And when I was going through that, I didn't really understand what that meant. And when I first started out years ago, I was just like, I just do project management. Like, I know what I do, and you should too. But people didn't. And so if you don't know how to define your services and clearly articulate that to people, they're not going to be able to do that for you. And that's going to lead them to not to hire you. And so I had to kind of go back to the drawing board once I formally set up my company and I wasn't freelancing anymore. And it wasn't just referral based, it was me going after actual clients, having to be able to articulate what I do. Because it is very, very niche. And there's not a lot of people that really understand it. With project management, and even the operations services or the strategy pieces that I provide, it's all temporary endeavors. So although I help people build things that will sustain and grow their businesses, I'm not a part of their team officially. I come in, depending on the scope of what they want me to do, I exit out after the scope of whatever they identified for me to help them with, support them with, or work on is completed. I leave. And so I needed to really kind of understand what I'm going to offer under each of these specific buckets so that I can understand how I'm going to articulate that, pitch that, charge for it, collect on it, and then move on. Okay. And I'm also one of those presenters. I'll just throw that in there. If anyone has any questions, hopefully I'm able to see it on the screen. If not, just feel free to jump in there as we're going along. And so the way I break my services down are into different divisions. Like I said, that TAMS management, which is really the project management and the operations pieces of it. And so for each of these items that you see here that are bulleted in white under each division, I actually have, is it easy? Is it hard to see? Oh, okay, perfect. I actually have mapped out specific line items of services that I provide. And with that, I also have a calculation of what that costs. So I know what my hourly rate is going to be for each of these services. And then I utilize that as I'm talking with a person, doing the intake pieces, and it helps me kind of estimate what it will cost in terms of services for them to build out my quotes for anyone that I work with. And one of the reasons I'm starting here, like from the basics here, is really in pushing understanding the services, understanding the lines, is because as you go along, people are going to come at you with different language. They're going to be at different stages. Your customers might be ready to buy. You might have some that need more information, depending on the service offerings that you have. Maybe you're pitching to big companies. Maybe you're pitching to small businesses. Everybody's going to be in different industries. They're going to be at different levels. You are going to be the only constant in your business. And so you need to understand what you do and what you do not do. Be very clear about that so that it makes it easier for you to be able to maybe walk away from work or accept work, but then also understand what your capacity is going to be for that work, understand how much time it's going to take. So taking the time to really break out, okay, these are all of the things that I do. Everything else I do not. I might do that once in a while, but is it something that I want to charge for? Is it something I can charge for? Is it something that I excel at? Is it something I have a resource for? And so when I look at all these line items in my business, if I'm charging someone an invoice, it has to tie back into one of these categories on a higher level so that I know how to charge them and I feel comfortable with that. I don't doubt myself when I'm charging someone because I understand the work that's going to go into there. So it helps you create a baseline. So if you don't really have all of your services written down and mapped out, this is at a really high level. The spreadsheet that I have is much more detailed, but it helps me to kind of understand and put those boundaries in place when I'm building out my systems. So really starting out and understanding the actual services that you have. Any major company has those product launches or a new service launch. They really have to sit down and say, okay, what does it really mean when we say SOP development? What does that entail? What do we cover? What do we don't cover? And then the other key piece of this, when we talk about the services that you're going to offer before you start building out your systems, or as you're building out your systems, this will change, is going to be your actual organizational chart. I run across so many business clients that I work with, particularly small businesses. And I sometimes I've started to leave off small because you're still a business. Depending on your structure of your company, you may have some requirements that require you to do things that maybe, like, for example, if I'm a C Corp, which I am, I'm required to have meetings. I'm required to have meeting notes. I'm required to do certain things. But that I also enjoy doing those things because it helps me with structuring my business. One of the things I think is the most valuable to me is just having an organizational chart for my business. I don't care what level you're at. Understanding how you're going to silo work, who's going to be responsible for it, is going to be key for you to be successful. I personally just took out, you'll see some of the details. I have it at a really high level. I didn't put any of my vendors in there. But at the end of the day, I am the president of my company. I am, I'm pretty much a one-woman show here, but I do work with other organizations. And so I think that sometimes as smaller businesses, in terms of team size, maybe not, it's not reflected in your revenue. We figure, hey, I do it all. I am the administrative support in HR and accounting and XYZ and project management, and I do marketing. Yes and no, right? You may make the decisions in those things, but truly you don't do all of them or can't do them all at the end of the day. And if you are doing them all, you're not doing it well. And so one of the things I've identified is you do need support and resources as you grow, even if you're a one-woman show. And what I appreciate about an organizational chart, this is to keep you in line. This is to structure your business. This also helps me when, let's say I'm pitching to an organization that requires me to show this in terms of who my resources are. When I put that I am a team of one, there's only one employee and that's myself. Well, how are you going to balance this? How do I know that you have the capacity and the bandwidth to take on this work? Well, I have interns. I have systems that are in place. I don't share it here, but when you look at, for example, the accounting, I do have an accountant, but I also have an accounting software that I utilize. That's part of my organizational chart. That's how I document and keep things in line. Does that make any sense? So for example, with Michelle, I mean, I don't know your business structure, so I'm going off a limb here. So let's say that she is the president of the Holistic Business Network. On this organizational chart, maybe it's under administrative, maybe she may have it under a consulting team. She's also going to have Quadira there as a chief business strategist. That is her role. That's what she does. And then there's specific tasks and duties aligned with that. She's going to have someone who manages the accounting. If it's her, she also has software. For me, I put both of those things on there because it helps me keep in line who and what I'm working with. So for example, you may have somebody that, let's say, just does your taxes, but then you have someone separately that does your accounting, but then you might also have someone that does your CFO services. Breaking all those things apart is going to be important. Legally, you have a lawyer in your back pocket. Now, whether that is going to be Carla Eskren, who's a private attorney that I worked with, or I'm going to use the Legal Aid Society, that's my legal resource that I would go to. You put that on there. And part of this forces you to think about all of the components that go into your business. Where are my resources? Where are the people that I work with? And doing this one simple thing, and I also include the people who aren't full-time. When you're consulting out, let's say I need promotional items, I have my two go-to companies. One is the primary. If they don't answer me at a certain time frame, then I have my backup organization. I've worked with them before. I'm going to even move over to my project and program consultant team. I'm on all of those as well as the project management consultants that I also work with. And so the way that I look at it is if I'm not available as a resource, right? When I charge my hourly rate, I can be able to plug in anyone else and they'll get paid that same amount. Does that make sense? They get paid a different pricing, but in terms of charging it, I don't feel guilty about what I'm charging for that person is because I get my share as the owner and the president of the company, but also when I'm working a project, if I don't need to pay somebody else, I also get that as well. And so if you're going to look at yourself as an employee, you need to make sure that you're tracking your time, you're listed on there as well, and you're paying yourself all that you're worth. Does anyone have any questions about the organizational chart and the importance before we move on to the next parts? Good. All right.
Is this how you usually start any is this the first step in anything that you do with a business, having this like the first step, Roz?
So no, this is not my first step per se. It's one of the key parts though, as I'm building out my systems, because I have to understand what my resources are. And for me, I look at resources as people. I look at resources as software, financially. So the resources are things that are going to enable me to be able to execute the work that I'm hired for. Right? And so when you look at big corporations, they consider resources, I think outside of just financial, let's say if they have real estate, et cetera, but they also look at people as a resource. And I think that sometimes we shy away from that because we're like, oh no, I'm not a commodity, but you are. Your time is important, is valuable. So let's say, you know, I want to go to the south of France for the next 2 months, but I have projects there and then I'm managing that. I need a resource. I need a person, something that's going to keep managing that project so that I'm able to take vacation for 2 months.
Mm,
Right? So that
right.
the
So good.
interruption to my money. Okay.
Got
The
it. Thank
the
you.
first, you're welcome. One of the first things, and I don't cover it in here because I'm assuming everybody's at the level where we've already launched our businesses, but maybe we're having trouble keeping it together behind the scenes and it's getting difficult. Is your business plan. If you really write out a very good, thorough business plan, even with the SBA has a great one online. If you really write out the details of everything and you refer back to that, one of the things that I always circle back to is as a partner in Holistic Executive Suites, my co-founder, who's my sister, she always is going to be like, all right, let's go back to our Bible, which is our business plan, right? Didn't we create something for this in there for this particular situation? Or what did we say that we were going to do when this happened? And so if you take the time to do some of those steps, you write out your business plan, and that helps you come up with all of the services that you're really providing, how you're going to be able to charge everything out. When you get to build your systems, it's a little bit easier because you have a reference point to go from. Right. And if you guys see me looking away, I also have a resource list that as long as you register with your email, you'll get after the Zoom link tomorrow. That will also have some systems and software that will kind of help you through this process. A lot of the resources I found are really low cost or free. There are some that you are going to pay for, but I feel like there's an ROI on that where it's worth the investment. Okay, so talk about resources really quick. We'll talk about projections on your numbers and how you track everything through the session. All right. So we talked a little bit about this already in terms of your services. So what are you selling and how ready is it for it to go to market, right? For it to go to the public, whether you're a consultant and let's say you have consultation sessions or strategy sessions that you're selling. Do you really understand what your scope of conversation is going to be? One of the things that I offer is basically private label project management services. And I meet with other consultants or other project managers who just need support because they don't have the experience just yet, or they've run into a roadblock and they need some assistance. And a lot of it is because they haven't really done the research in terms of the area of the industry that they've been in, and they don't really have a procedure, which is a SOP, a standard operating procedure that gives them the guidance on what they're going to do. So we get onto a consultation call. I say let's say I'm just doing a project management consulting call with you, and then I realize I'm in over my head and I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't really think this was going to be the scope of the conversation. And one of those things I find is you have to know who you're going to be talking to and who you're pitching. It's great to pitch everybody, but then the problem is you're going to get everybody's problems and you might not necessarily be able to solve everyone's problems. So doing your market research, understanding within your industry, within your niche, what do people need? What do I do well and excel and could basically do in my sleep? And then how your company is going to be here to serve as well. And then write all of that down. So I will share this with you. When I set up my consultation sessions, I do get feedback. Hey, that's kind of pricey for an hour, but I don't just factor in the hour that I'm on the conversation. I factor in the prep time that has to go into the call. So there's going to be a form that they send me before we meet. If I don't get that form for at least 48 hours prior to our scheduled meeting or your booking, I cancel because I'm not going to be prepared to get on the phone with you. And I can't ask you to spend that much money without being prepared and going into that conversation. I also need to be able to guide the conversation in the direction and keep it in scope of what I need to get out from you. And then I also have to calculate time for after that. there's follow-up that's going to be included, and maybe 1 or 2 pieces of research, depending on the scope of what we discussed. But I may also have to send you follow-up communications, emails, develop a custom template, et cetera. It just depends on the scope of the consultation that you book, and that all takes time. So one of the things I'm going to send you all is a consulting calculator. It's free online. You put in, it helps you kind of figure out your per hour cost. And so in addition to just figuring out what you charge you're going to charge per hour, but also you need to figure out how much time am I going to spend on this actual service, so that when I do charge, $5.50 for an hour, I know what I'm charging for, because I'm going to do it. Maybe your hourly rate is $100, for example. I know that I'm going to do an hour and a half of prep. I'm going to be on the phone with them for an hour, and then I have another 2 hours of follow-up or 3 hours of follow-up work that needs to be done before their consultation is completed. And so that's how I came up with that amount. Does that make sense to everyone? And then I write that all down, because then if I can't do it again, or if I need to set up the system using something like Zapier, where it automatically kind of links all of my softwares together, I know what the process is that I follow for each particular consultation. So it becomes rinse and repeat. And then if I ever need to hire additional consultants or people to help represent my brand and my organization, I'm just handing them over something that gives them all the instructions of what they need to do, so that it doesn't matter if they're meeting with Roseline or Michelle, they're getting the same exact type of experience. And I feel comfortable with letting that person do that. And so that's where you have to figure out what your automations are going to be. Rinse and repeat your dollars, right? So if this is what works well for you, okay, then this is what you're going to do. The other piece of that's going to be at the end of it, testing it. 1, 2, 3, testing and making sure that it works. One other thing I love about, I think, project work is that it's dynamic. You learn from everyone. There's always opportunity for improvement. That's my Six Sigma talking. You're never perfect. There's always opportunities to continue to perfect or tweak or make things better for you. And especially if you're a team of one, where you do have to rely on consultants and you want to cut down on costs. You want to cut down on things. You want to make sure you test everything before you fully launch it, so that you feel comfortable with anything that may come up. But also, you know what you're doing, and you feel like and confident that you can go into any situation with understanding what my workflow is going to be. So I talked about more of like the service-based, but for product-based businesses, it's going to be very similar. You want to make sure that you are understanding from beginning. The moment that you say, hey, I posted this this cell phone case online on my Etsy store, or on my, I think Instagram has a store. I know TikTok has a store now. And then all the way until I get that customer review, which means I've already collected my dollars, the customers received their product. I understand how it's going to work all the way from A to Z, and that requires testing. The next part is going to be marketing. I'm not going to talk about marketing in the sense of developing your marketing strategy, how all that's going to work. That's what a marketing specialist is for. But what you do have to think about is how you're reaching your customers and what the path for that customer is. So when I say that we do a lot of like website, printed materials, social media, event marketing, right? All of this goes into it. So your strategist will say, hey, here are the different things that I recommend for you to do. Now, one of the important things that you have to know, right, up front, when you did your organizational chart, you realize, well, I don't have the time to do all this. So then that's when you have to decide that, okay, for all my website clients, maybe I can build it out and automate it, so that every time they order a cell phone case, I don't need to worry about it. It'll automatically go through, the label prints automatically. I just have to go here, peel a label off and stick it on onto a package, and ship it out every day. That's my involvement. But when it comes to the printed media, materials, social media, putting together events, there's no way I can get involved with that. I don't understand it. It's too much time, too much effort. I don't have the capacity for it. That's when you decide, hey, strategist, thank you for this amazing idea and all this work. So what are your packages again to come up with printed materials? And that includes, the development of the artwork, printing it all out. Do you do EDDM? Do I have to go distribute myself? Social media, what are your social media packages? Because I don't have the time for that. I don't have the capacity. And maybe you can't afford the strategist to be able to pay for your social media ads. Do you have an intern? Do you have a plan for that intern? What does their work schedule look like? They're still an employee, there's still someone has to execute. And so those are the things that I want you to think about when you're talking to different people who are offering you services in different fields where you don't, that's not your area of expertise. Think about that and go into that conversation knowing what you can and cannot do. Website, hey, I could build my own website. I can build a workflow for it through there, but I can't manage printed materials. I can't manage social media. I can't manage events, which means I need to budget for them. And if I can't budget for them, I'm going to be putting in the work and really writing out detailed SOPs because I'm going to try to get an intern, even though I believe in paid interns. I'm going to get an intern that will get that work done for me, or I'm going to get a family volunteer, or I'm going to pull in my husband, or I'm going to pull in my sister here to help me do this work. Well, that means you need to be able to hand them instructions to be able to do that. There's going to be an investment of resources. So that's time, money, energy, or doing all of those things. Another piece is the customer engagement systems, which I know is very popular, is how are you managing your customer service? And this goes beyond just saying, hey, you received your product. Can I get a Google review? You have to think about before you got into the end of the line, what were all the steps? What were the interaction points that you had with your customer throughout the entire process? All of your systems, from the moment they saw that website, when they Googled and your website came up #1 or your Google ad came up and they're like, oh, I'm going to click on this because it looks amazing. What does their experience look like during onboarding? When you were closing the deal, did you have contracts? There are portals. How many things that they have to go into? When you have to get payment for them, what does that look like? Is it a rough thing? Do you have to collect checks? What happens if the check bounces? Do you have to collect, are you going to do ACH? What happens when the ACH declines? All of those things go into your customer engagement systems. And then let's talk about appointments. All right. How are we going to make those appointments? Are we going to send text reminders? Oh, if we send text reminders, that probably means I have to do like a text plan. Am I going to use somebody to do that and have an employee do that? How am I going to manage my appointments? I hate Google Calendar. So does that mean I'm going to write it down and it's also going to be on Google Calendar? Or is it just going to send them a link right before? So all of those communication methods go into your customer engagement. I think a lot of the times that we focus so much on getting a Google review that we forget that we've talked to our customer doing onboarding, payments, appointments, regular communications. And if we don't continue to engage with them and they have a positive experience, we show up and we're like, wait, why did I get a bad Google review? Or why did they fill out this survey and they were like 1 across the board? Well, they may have gotten their product, they may have gotten their consultation, but that doesn't mean that they weren't happy with it. And one of the things is also looking at things constructively. A lot of times there are people who are afraid to tell us, right, because of the feedback. I hope that with my clients and our members at our space, that I've created an atmosphere of that, but I really don't know, right? And so when I see someone not leave a review for something, I ask why, right? Especially with the project management consulting, because I do it a lot. But then a lot of people don't want people to know that they don't have things together behind the scenes. This is their brand, this is their business. And so I said, okay, well, are you okay with me giving out your phone number, your contact details, and being a reference for me? So sometimes too, within the industry you're in, people may not feel comfortable. I see a lot of people who get the testimonials when someone's had a facial and different things like that. Everyone is different. Some people don't want to be on social media, but they might leave you a 5-star review. So you have to kind of figure out, know your clients. That's part of that market research piece. Understand them, understand their behaviors, and what they'll be open to doing and how you're going to engage them. Because all of that comes into that as well. When you do your market research, it will tell you their habits down to how many times they pick up their cell phones. Do they prefer iPhones or Androids? Do they like flyers on their car or not? There's a lot of free opportunities where you can learn about your customers so that when you go to build out systems, when we're talking about how to connect with them, you'll have the answers. And I know there's a lot of free data, even census data, that you can go down to like the neighborhood level and figure out these are the types of people that live in this neighborhood. These are their buying habits. These are the stores that they go into. This is how they prefer to purchase things. These are their preferred methods of technology, down to that level, so that when you on the other end are figuring out, okay, do I invest money in, I don't know, like a checks. I don't have checks. So none of my target folks are with checks, but like, is it worth buying paper checks? Is it, or putting in the ability for them to be able to pay by check? That wouldn't work for me. That'd be a waste of money and time and energy and building out a process for people who give checks when I know that none of my customers would really ever pay me with a check. Okay. Any questions before I keep going? We're almost to the end here.
I do see a question in the chat. Juna is asking, do you recommend asking for reviews during the process when you're a service-based business?
So I think that's where you have to know your customers, right? You have to know who they are and their habits. I prefer that you kind of get those reviews at the end or towards the end. Like, let's say we're 75% there, they're happy. If you're a service-based business, and I'll say 75% because of this, if you're a service-based business where your service has been delivered, June, I know you do some consulting services. I know there are folks that do marketing services. I do project management. Let's say we hand over a plan. You hand over somebody a plan, but the remainder of the work is really up to them and how they execute that. I try to get it earlier, so when they're happy about this amazing plan that I get, right? And we're in that execution phase. Here's your plan delivered. This is actually what you paid me for. The rest of it is me watching what happens, being able to provide constructive feedback, being able to help you course correct. I want to get them before then because sometimes they don't have the operations in place. Sometimes they don't have the dedication to their project as you did. So you may have had fun building an amazing project plan. You're like, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait to the launch. And then they decide that they don't want to do this anymore. And that's maybe 2 weeks after you handed in whatever work. Or there's an amazing marketing plan that you put together, or a business strategy plan that you put together. And then there's a change of mind, a change of heart. I don't have the funding. I want to go on vacation for a couple of weeks before I come back and implement them. You want to catch them when they're happy after you delivered and given them what they asked and paid for. If you have that period of time where you're still engaged with them, but they have actions on their end, I like to catch them before that starts. Because if they lose their commitment, that doesn't negate the work that I did for them. I still delivered. I did an amazing job, and they're happy with the work that I did and delivered. But now they're being lazy, or they don't have the time, or life happens, right? You don't know. And so you want to catch them while they're still in that euphoria stage and getting your reviews. That's what I would recommend for a service-based. Anyhow.
All right, Juna says, got it.
On the back end, how do you wrap up with clients and relationship build? Well, we just talked about reviews and surveys. Follow-up needed, the workflow and process for following up, check-in or feedback. One of the things I found is that it's easy to really get like repeat work. You just have to check back in with folks. So let's say that they hired you for some, I'll just do real estate consulting services, and now it's been working out great. And 6 months later, they don't know what to do with the load that they have, and they forget that you have your upsell services, right? Or they love this stress that they bought from you 2 or 3 months ago, but they forgot that, hey, I can go back because now they're going to have a summer or fall line. Or, you know what? I had an amazing facial 3 months ago, and now I want to go. I think my skin is looking a little weird. Like that text message will kind of ping that, right? Or that email will ping that and say, hey, it's been 3 months I had a facial. I felt so good after that. I want to go back. Or I'm almost running out of product. I can go ahead and get a facial and more product at the same time. I'm one of those people. The esthetician I use, she's pretty good. I don't know what she's got. She's got a great timing system, and she's bombarded me for the last 2 weeks. And I'm like, now I feel like a sense of urgency, like I'm late. I need to go ahead and book her again because it's been a while. But then I started noticing things about myself that I'm like, oh, I haven't gotten a facial in a while. I need to go back. And so that goes whether you're service or product based, there's always opportunity to either upsell or resell the same service because you're just checking in. Life happens. They might need some additional support. Record keeping, there's great options for file organization that I put in there. Having a copy of your records, not just on your computer. This has been something even I've learned as a hard lesson. Computers die, computers drop, and they crack in half. You have different options, whether it's going to be online in a cloud system. You have separate portable drives that you can have and put your information and files on. Remember, I think a lot of people forget that, our phones and our computers can break. They are not like foolproof. And also, you lose things get hacked. And you want to make sure that you want to keep your dollars coming in. That means you got to make sure you have got some sort of backup plan, solutions, passwords, all that. There's so many different options for all of those pieces. You just have to be able to recognize and think through that. And then your contact list, right? Who owns your customers? I think a lot of people build their businesses off of social media. Don't forget, well, we've seen it, Instagram, Facebook go down for a day or two. And what if your account gets locked out? Someone hacks, and holds your account hostage. I've seen those things come up. So who owns all of that? Even on LinkedIn, did you know that you can go in and download people's email addresses and names? So there's different opportunities on all these different platforms where you can pull your audience down, direct them to a website. And then even with like MailChimp and these other services, download every few months. I would say at least once a quarter, your email list and let MailChimp or any of the other service platforms that you may use for marketing. I know a lot of people use Constant Contact. Keep a copy of that on your Google Drive or your separate drive on a thumb drive. You don't want to lose those names, emails, phone numbers, because honestly, they're dollars for you at that point. So as we talk about that, numbers equals dollars. And so when we talk about numbers, we're talking about really being able to track how your money is coming in the door, your projections. That's where a great accounting firm, I think I shouted out Intention Enterprises earlier, but she's an amazing bookkeeper. But I think sometimes we focus on accountants and bookkeepers during tax season, and we forget the value and their value throughout the year. Where they can help you kind of evaluate your business and where you're at. And a big part of that is also going to be your actual numbers. What I like utilizing QuickBooks because being able to see the different product lines and service lines that I offer, where are my dollars, where's my time going to be spent, what are the money-making activities that I'm doing? Because it becomes black and white when you see it on a report. There's no, well, I think the consultations are doing great, or I think the training classes are doing great, or I'm getting more clients. I know I am. It feels like it because I'm working more. No, where's the money coming in? Those are your money-making activities. So the activities that you're doing towards those tasks are what you should be focused on if you're focused on the dollars in your bottom line. One of the things that I definitely have, this is an example of just a KPI dashboard. So KPI is a key performance indicator. We're just basically saying, hey, this is going to track my performance. And so this is a snapshot. You can find the examples online, depending on your industry. You may measure it different ways, your personal business, what's important to you. But if we look at email marketing and Google business listings, these are just some of the things that you can get from them that will tell you how to invest. So do I invest in some Google ads because I'm seeing the return here? Or maybe I should do more on email marketing because I'm actually seeing the return here because more people are opening emails and following through on emails versus the Google ads that I'm paying for. Ooh, did I go backwards? I sure did. And how do you map all this out? So this is a business canvas, which basically is an outline of all of the things that people do, right? All the things that go into your business. I personally prefer to map it out a little bit differently. It just depends on the level that you're at. Some people like to see things differently. So this is kind of like, I call it my operations map. And what I like to do in here is just write out who, what the resource is going to be. So it could be software in here. It could be a person that's going to be in here. I could put in here every 3 months, I update it. And it's just like a rough draft where I can kind of play around and see what goes into all those pieces. So this is just an example of a portion of a operations map I use. And so I know I shared a lot of information in under an hour. I hope I'm under an hour still. But it's going to be a step-by-step thing. It's not going to be something that's overnight. It takes time to really build out a really robust operations systems and just business systems to keep things kind of moving like a well-oiled machine. If you don't have time, then that means you're going to be doing a lot of resources. That could be people or that could be financial to get it together and really attack this to really get things together behind this week. So one of the things I want you to look at is being able to look at things on a weekly basis, then on a monthly basis, in 3 months, 6 months, and really start to hammer out, okay, maybe this month I'm just going to focus on my customer engagement pieces and some of SOPs that I know I need written, and then continue to expand upon that, really breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. It's just like eating an elephant. You do it one bite at a time. All right, and so that's all that I have for you all. I don't know if there's any other questions in the chat. That's my contact information. Again, located at Holistic Executive Suites in Boynton Beach. My phone number is listed on there, email, website, all of the socials as well. Any questions?
I see someone is asking, do you help with business plans? Royale,
Royale. I do. It just depends on the industry.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
if you
Royale, definitely.
Oh, go ahead. You could.
No, I was just going to tell her to make sure she gets your information so you guys can connect. Yeah.
Yes. Send me an email if you go on my website and send me an inquiry form or follow up.
Awesome. That was so good, Roz. Oh my gosh. Guys, I hope you're taking pictures of Roz's information. Let me change the view back to gallery. That was fantastic. Like, I took 2 pages of notes, and just so good how you work through creating the systems that are going to help your business be successful. We all need that. I know I use Quidera as my business strategist, and if it wasn't for her, I probably would be more chaotic. But she had me create that business plan, and it was very structured, all the steps. So I love this. It's a gift for those of you that have this, and then thank you for sharing this gift with all of us, because it definitely was very helpful. I know, I see Miriam has her hand up. Miriam has a question for you.
Yeah, it's about the co-working space. Do you need, like, can you rent per day, or is it like you need to have like a contract?
So we have our community membership, which allows you to rent on a daily basis. I'll put the link in the chat where you can do that. Give me 1 second. So once you sign up, you'll scroll to the bottom, you'll see the 3 different options. We have a room that's designed for therapists. We have a room that's designed for business professionals. And we also have a room that's designed for medical or wellness professionals that includes the medical bed.
Okay. I'm from Montreal, but one day I want to like move, and I think that's like a great idea to have like this.
Come down.
Yeah, their space is absolutely beautiful. Such a great place to do amazing work and just have that zen. So you will love it. We've hosted a few events there, and I can't say enough about the Holistic Executive Suites. It's great. Let me see. I see there's more questions. Oh, okay. Christine's also agreeing that's an amazing space. But thank you so much. Are there any more questions for Roz?
I have a question. If no one else has questions, I have a question.
Thank you.
Yeah. The floor is open to you, Quidera.
Did we ask this question about from Juna? I think we did, about asking for reviews during the process when you're a service-based business. We asked that question already.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So Roz, you know, this is the Holistic Business Network, and the people in the network, the business owners in the network are mostly holistic health and wellness professionals, practitioners. And then we also have people like yourself who support these holistic health and wellness practitioners and professionals. So they can tend to be a bit service oriented, right? And so people who are typically service oriented typically lead with a hearty type of mindset and heart set. And so I'm just wondering, what are some common pitfalls that you see people having when they don't set up their business structures, get their projects in order with someone like yourself, and how can they identify like that they are ready and they should definitely be reaching out to you?
So one of the things I recognize, and I'll put like our whole, I think our holistic business network is full of a lot of concierge professionals. So we're providing a Lux service, right, at a higher price point. And some of the challenges I can see is definitely that there's opportunities for structure because we're, like you said, we're leading with our heart, and we lead kind of without some of that structure because that's not where the value is. The value is in the work that you'll be doing, the knowledge that you'll be sharing, which is valuable. But the challenge with that is if you have a high price point and your service is not there in terms of onboarding, I get it. It's not your forte. I work with a lot of creatives a lot. That's my bread and butter. So thank you all very much. But you have to be able to onboard that person. You don't want to lose people in the process where they might have paid you, $750 for an exclusive sound bath session one-on-one in a private room. Um, you might lose those people if you aren't going to be able to send them a confirmation email. They don't know where to go to pay because you want them to just come on in and I'm going to Zell you. Well, I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. Like, I want to know that I'm going in, I've got a confirmation, I've got a receipt, I have details, I have information. And so, although there's value in your service, there's also value in the pre-service activities that need to happen and the post-service activities, because you may lose somebody on the back end as well, because you may have a membership service offering that you wanted to upsell, but they're like, I didn't even get a text message till about 15 minutes before with the address of where I was going. You're not going to be able to charge that person another $750. And we've seen it in our space. And so I know from like a medical perspective, we've worked through with some of the individuals. My sister's at MP, so she's worked through some workflow processes with some folks. And then on the operational side, definitely I recognize that as an opportunity. And if you don't have the time or the skill set for it, there are people like me, there are other people that can offer those services to help you structure. One of the things I think that's important as you go to hire someone, understand what their scope is going to be. Understand what a marketing consultant, a real estate consultant, a brand strategist, a project manager, what do they do? What do they do not do? And then does that align with what you do and what you can't do, right? And don't be afraid to spend the money, especially if you're concierge business or you lend yourself to some of those alternative businesses that, or holistic businesses usually fall under because it's not the mainstream, it's a little bit different. That means you may have to over explain, you may have to have like a website, you may have to pay for the Acuity subscription, because I'm not paying you $500 if I have to remind you that your Acuity is not working and I can't book you. I hope that answered that question. I hope I didn't hurt anyone.
Yes. Yes, it did. I'm not going to
Exactly.
go over time, but that was a really great answer. And yeah, we'll end it there. And maybe 8 months from now, we could get you to do a part 2.
Maybe. I'm onboarding a couple of clients right now. But I did see a couple of questions. Oh, we're over. Oh, yeah, we have a minute. But yes, I do the audit of the business systems and operations, Juna.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, you have been a true wealth of information. Such good, valuable information that we can actually implement. And thank you for giving grace at the end to let us know that this is not going to happen overnight. It does take time. to go
Yes.
through all those steps. For sure. I know if you're like me, you're like want to jump in and get it all done, but it does take time to structure all of that out. So give yourself grace on that, and just know, keep Rosaline's name and voice in the back of your head saying, you know, this is the first step, and then you're working through all of that. But thank you so much, Roseline. Thank you for bringing so much value to the Holistic Business Network. Tonight's training was amazing. For all of us who are, I see several people are launching another aspect of their business. So I'm so glad this was really helpful to you guys. You're getting a lot of hand claps and thank yous in the chat. So thank you, thank you. And like I mentioned in the beginning, we are really going to be ramping up the value that we're giving within the Holistic Business Network. So the price will be increasing soon. So if you have any questions about being a part of the network, definitely reach out to me. You can find me at, I'll put it in the chat, or you can follow us on Instagram. The Holistic Business Network is our Instagram name. I'll put it in here, but you don't have any other questions. Actually, I'm going to send an email out since you guys all registered. That will be easier. I'll send an email with all the details. And then even Roseline can share that screenshot she had with her details so I can include it. So you guys will have that too.
Yes. And
Sounds good.
we're also sending out the QR code worksheets, which is different software resources and things that will help folks get started.
I love that. And then you also mentioned a calculator too, which I was like, a consulting calculator. I love that. To figure
Yes.
out how people should price. Like that's Cordera's wheelhouse. She loves that. So I was like, oh, that's really helpful. Thank you so much. So many great resources that you recommended.
Because you called my name again, I'm just going to jump in there and say that Roz is a real wealth of knowledge. Even the way I've been at the Holistic Executive Suites, I think since January, I don't remember. But even the way the business is run, you could tell that our girl is utilizing those project management systems. Okay. So I highly recommend reaching out to her and just learning more about her service and how she can potentially, if you all are a good fit, how she can potentially help you in your business, whether you think you're an online business and you don't got that much going on. I just recommend, you know, seeing if you can fit into her schedule as she is onboarding clients right now.
Yeah.
I've known her for like 10 years, I think, or 8 years.
Yeah. Yes. So Quadir is one of the people I know I met with when I was first trying to figure out what's the whole brand. They're telling me I need a brand. What is that? So yeah,
Well, you have
that
truly
was a
branded yourself well.
Thank you.
I'm
Well,
going to stop the recording.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys, for being a